Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Qwest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as we celebrate. It's a weekly 3-hour celebration is what it is. This show is a party. It's a 3-hour party every week celebrating and encouraging and promoting and defending and talking about the great outdoors here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. Hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and wildlife issues and conservation issues. And sometimes we get into politics, but only as it pertains to those conservation or hunting or fishing issues. Talk about different places around our state, different places to go, different activities to get involved in, and how to better enjoy those activities. Yeah, we give some tips on maybe how to be a better hunter or a better angler, but that's one of the things about the outdoors is you don't have to be an expert to fully enjoy it. You can be a rank amateur, an absolute beginner when it comes to hunting or fishing or shooting or trapping, and you will enjoy it absolutely every bit as much as a veteran who's been out there doing it for 40 years. You may be involved in those activities, and your level of proficiency may well be different than somebody who has more experience. But the experience is the experience, right? It's just being out there that makes it fun. It's being out there that makes it the type of thing that we think about, the type of thing that it's what we do in our off time, in our spare time when we're not working. It's what we talk about with our friends, with our buddies. It's what we dream about, literally. How many hunting or fishing dreams have you had? I know I've had a few. Or those times when you find yourself in your office or at the shop or out in the field or whatever, and your mind starts to just wander off a little bit. Where does it go? It goes to the woods. It goes to the water. It goes to the gun range. I mean, I get it, right? And this time of year now, it makes it really easy to daydream and think about, the summer season coming up and spring. Spring is here now, right? Spring is here now. I saw my first skunk a couple of weeks ago. The sandhills are back. The geese are back on the pond behind the house, and the ice is gone on the pond behind the house. And the real hardcore true sign of spring, last week when I got out of the studio, I got home, I walked out in the backyard, and boom, there were the red-winged blackbirds on the pond. And I knew, right then I knew, okay, it is now springtime. And isn't it wonderful? I mean, March has been pretty nice so far, a little warmer than average. Will we pay for it? Maybe. But we'll enjoy it while we can, right? Also seeing a lot of coyote activity. On my Facebook page, the coyote hunters have been just knocking them down left and right, and it's because it's the breeding. I think it's because it's the breeding season. They're out there. They're more active. I had an interesting situation myself last week. I like to take a walk every morning. Well, every morning that I can. 2, 3, 3.5, sometimes pushing 4-mile walk, and I really enjoy it. I put I listen to a book through my headphones, and I really enjoy it. The other day, I was walking around the neighborhood. I did a short and loop. I did 2.5 miles. So I really stayed in the neighborhood. Now, I live in town, right? I live on the edge of town, but I live in the city. About 7:30 in the morning, halfway into my walk, I come around the corner, I look up, and there 30 yards in front of me is a coyote coming out of the trees between the houses. He's 30 yards in front of me, and he's just kind of loping along. He's not walking. He's trotting, right? I see him, and I said, hey, get out of here. He looks up at me. He didn't tuck his tail between his legs and take off. He didn't stop. He didn't run away. He just kept up his pace. This was a coyote that was used to being around people, right? So I knew we had him around. I'd seen the tracks. I mean, I knew they were around. I talked to my neighbor about it, and he checked his trail camera. He's got a trail camera behind the house, and he had picked up a coyote at 4:30 that same morning when I saw one at 7:30. Probably the same dog, I would imagine. But coyotes are everywhere, right? So I did tell the neighbors who have small dogs, you might want to be a little bit careful right now, because that coyote was out hunting. I actually think it's cool, right? I mean, I'm not one of those people when it comes to coyotes or wolves who says kill them all. I don't like that mentality, and I'll be real honest with you. I'm gonna make some people mad here. I think when people say kill them all or smoke a pack a day, I think it makes us look like bloodthirsty killers, and I think it makes us look kind of ignorant. And we're not. We as hunters are not bloodthirsty killers, and we are not ignorant. But when we make statements like that, it makes us look that way. You know, there's got to be a place in nature for top-tier predators, whether it's mountain lions, cougars, pumas, whatever you want to call them, big cats, wolves, coyotes, whatever. There's a place for them. Now, obviously, here in Michigan, there are way too many coyotes, and I think unless you're a blatant anti-hunter, you have to admit that there are too many wolves in at least parts of the UP. But to kill them all, I don't want to kill them all. But it was interesting to see one 30 yards in front of me in a residential neighborhood. And actually kind of cool. It was a big coyote, big, beautiful, just an absolutely gorgeous animal. All right, so coyotes have been active. Walleye right now. Man, this is an excellent time to take a trophy walleye. Again, looking at my Facebook page, I am seeing pictures coming out of Lake Erie, Saginaw River, of just big, beautiful trophy walleye. Now, keep in mind that on the rivers, walleye season closes March 15th. March 15th at midnight, walleye season closes. The Great Lakes and connecting waters continue in Michigan to be open year-round. The Great Lakes are pretty obvious, but you say, well, connecting waters, well, the Saginaw River connects to the Great Lakes. The Grand connects to the Great Lakes. The St. Joe connects to the Great Lakes. The Muskegon connects to the Great Lakes. The Manistee connects to the Great Lakes, so they must be open. No. When they say connecting waters, they mean a river that connects two Great Lakes, like the St. Clair River or the Detroit River, which are also open year-round. The St. Mary's connects two Great Lakes, but it's not open year-round. So just be aware of that. If you're listening to the broadcast version of the show, you've only got a couple more days at the most to get out there and take advantage of that walleye fishing. Coming up here later in the show, we're going to talk with a DNR biologist about this whole concept of spawning closures and some changes in gear restrictions, at least for part of our state. And here's a question for you. Why do we have a catch and release season for bass, but we don't have a catch and release season for walleye? During the closed season for bass, you can target them, you just have to release them. But during the closed walleye season, it is illegal to target a walleye during the closed season on the rivers. Why is that? Is that discrimination against the walleye fishermen? Or is there a legitimate biological reason for it? If there is a legitimate biological reason, then I'm all for it. If it's just some kind of a social thing, then get rid of it. Speaking of biology and social impacts, here in Michigan, we passed the Scientific Wildlife Management Act, right? A few years ago, it said all wildlife-related issues will be based on sound science. But now, coming out of Lansing, we've got a couple of rumblings of a Sandhill crane hunt And the wolf hunt is coming back up again. The Sandhill crane hunt. Nick Green from MUCC will be along in the second hour to talk more about that. Maybe we're finally going to get one. I don't know. It might be. It's too early to say for sure. And some state legislators are pushing for a wolf hunt. Now, I don't like the idea of politicians being involved in wildlife issues. But maybe sometimes it takes politicians getting involved to get the DNR and the NRC off center. Mixed feelings on that one. I have been really jonesing to get out and start shooting my recurve to get ready for turkey season, especially with this warm weather. But I'm finding out even when your job is in the outdoors, like my job is the outdoors, and I can pretty much justify taking off to go hunting or fishing whenever I can. Even in my world, sometimes life gets in the way, with other activities, office work, stuff around church, home improvement and such. So I haven't been out to shoot the recurve yet. By the time we talk next week, I will guarantee you that will have happened. Coming up on this week's show, after the break, Dave Rose talks about fishing opportunities in the springtime in Michigan. Also a big possible world record sturgeon he caught. Dean Hall of Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger. In hour number 2, Brad Dupuie of Apex Marine Angler Qwest Boats. I know, Charlie. I know. And Nick Green from MUCC. Addie Dutton from the DNR. And in hour number 3, Tom Lounsbury talks about springtime, what that means for those of us who love the outdoors. And we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef Dave Miner. All that and more this week on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in, let's go to Port Huron, WPHM, 1380 AM, and north of the bridge to Newberry, WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Speedy Blaze. Speedy Blaze is a safe, clean, water, and insect-resistant alternative to firewood. Because it's made from recycled firewood, though, it's safe to cook over. You can put it in your campfire, your stove, your grill, your fireplace. Any place you can put a fire, you can put a Speedy Blaze fire. It'll start every time. It'll burn clean and hot. Check them out online at speedyblaze.com. That's speedyblaze.com. While you're online, I would encourage you to head over to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And then head over to wildfishing.com. That's the website of Dave Rose, outdoor writer, and all-around good guy. And I actually, when I talked to Dave the other day, I said, let's talk about springtime fishing opportunities in Michigan. He said, absolutely, I'm ready to go. He said, but by the way, I just had an interesting experience down in the Gulf. And when I heard this, I thought, Dave, we got to get you on the show. And guess what? He's here with us. David, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing good. We're, it's not bragging, but it's almost hot outside. So, and I'm watching the Gulf of Mexico roll up on the sandy beaches here in Orange Beach, Alabama.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to let you make me feel bad because it's going to be 60 here today. So there.
Oh, I know. I talked to some friends back home and stuff. Snow's melting, ice conditions are getting a little spooky. So, unfortunately, because of the postponement of some of the big major consumer fishing shows, is the reason I had a couple weeks to get out of Dodge and come down this way. But yeah, it's a happy time, but it's a sad time because the shows are postponed.
Yeah, we had Ben Nielsen of Showspan on last week, and he said of all their 11 shows, including the big 3 fishing and outdoor shows that we're used to, they weren't able to have any of them. And this is the second year for a couple of those shows.
Yeah, it is, and it's a shame. But I guarantee you, well, what happened after the last pandemic of the Spanish flu in 1918 was the Roaring 20s. Flappers in the streets. They had to enact prohibition because people were drinking too much, and I can see the Roaring 20s coming here again.
Well, when we get flappers in the street, I'm going to call you up and say, Dave, you were right.
As long as it's not me out there, I'm good. We're all good.
So listen, I want to talk. Yeah, we want to talk fishing here in Michigan, but you told me about an experience you had down there on the Gulf that I find fascinating. Tell me more about that.
Well, I love saltwater fishing, and I love surf fishing, whether it's in the Great Lakes or on an inland lake in Michigan, or if it's down here in the Gulf of Mexico or wherever. Surf fishing is really cool because you never know what you're going to catch. It's like getting a grab bag at the big fishing show we were just talking about. What's inside, you don't know until you open it up. Well, yeah, it'll be 2 weeks. I've been down here in the warmth and surf fishing, and I only took 2 days off from fishing to do a couple other things, but I've caught 8 different species, from whiting to croakers to sailcats to blue crab to stingrays to a flounder, and then all of a sudden, the very last fish I caught this past Saturday morning about 11:30, it took me for a ride. I thought I had maybe a big shark on or something like that, and it ended up being about 120, 130 pound, over 6 feet long Gulf sturgeon.
A sturgeon?
Yeah, and trust me, as I'm fighting this fish in the surf and people are gathering around, there was a good Samaritan that helped me out here a little bit, and I could tell he knew a little something about fishing and whatnot, and you could see the silhouette of this prehistoric fish out in the water, but again, it just looked like a giant 6-foot shark, and it's like, okay, now what am I going to do? And all of a sudden, when its back broke the water, there was none of that shark dorsal fin. And he looked at me and I looked at him, and as I'm fighting the fish, and he goes, "A sturgeon?" And because it had that big armor plating, and I'm like, okay, because neither of us realized there are saltwater sturgeon, which are very similar to the sturgeon like we have in Michigan there with the lake sturgeon and whatnot. And it is one of the rarest fish on earth, and even more rarer to catch one. So I hooked and landed. The guy helped me tail the fish and get it up, and we kept its head in the water, and I knew it had to be some kind of an endangered or whatever federally protected fish, and I was correct. So I just wanted to get it back and didn't even measure it. I have about a 6-foot arm span, and when I went head to tail, it was longer than my arm span, so it was over 6 feet long. Had I had a proper measuring device, it probably would have set the new all-time world record for Gulf sturgeon on hook and line.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And the fact I don't pretend to be a saltwater expert, but I had no idea there were saltwater sturgeon. Yeah,
I didn't either, and I've learned a lot in the last few days. In fact, the fish has been registered now with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They contacted me, and we made sure, I look for any tags or anything like that. I've got the actual coordinates of where I caught it off the surf. And just like the sturgeon in Michigan, they spawn in the spring, but they actually spawn their spring is, you would think it would be earlier, but he said May and June is when they run some of the rivers and whatnot and spawn. So this fish was probably headed towards, there's a Perdido Pass, as they call it, and there's kind of a river system that dumps out here to about half a mile to the east of me here. And yeah, this fish was probably migrating over that way, and probably a big female, because they tend to be the bigger fish. And I guess there's 3 different saltwater species of sturgeon. The rarest of rare is what they call the Alabama sturgeon. It's a smaller sturgeon, but this was a Gulf sturgeon.
The pictures that you sent me are kind of cool too, because it's obviously it's a Gulf beach. There are just people walking up and down the beach, on vacation, just enjoying themselves, and there you are in the midst of them with this giant prehistoric fish and a big smile on your face. A very cool setting.
Yeah, it was a really cool setting. I mean, my brother just happened to be sitting down next to me, and then my wife Carol just happened to be. She just got there minutes before, and she had her cell phone camera, luckily enough. And by the time I hooked that fish, it was about 40 minutes. It was on 20-pound test. So I just played the surf. I played the waves, got the fish in. And by the time I got done, there was probably well over 100 people talking, observing. And, I'd have to go to the east or I had to follow the fish because it almost fooled me twice on this giant 5,000 reel I had. And somebody said it looked like Forrest Gump from the movie because everywhere Forrest went, they followed and ran, and that's exactly what happened.
So do you get any kind of official recommendation? Is it a master angler catch and release or any equivalent of that?
Well, because I never measured it. I never got an official measurement. I just really wanted to get that fish, make sure the head stayed in the water and get it released. I deep down inside, any sturgeon, from what I understand, is pretty rare. And these are federally protected under the acts of, Endangered Species Act and all that kind of stuff. So my goal, I should have laid the rod down kind of next to it and marked, where it was on the rod. And it might have been an official record then. I don't know exactly how that works, but no. So it's just, I got an attaboy. I probably caught the world's largest one. Now they have captured them back in the past up to 300 and some pounds. But that was like in trap nets or whatever. But from what I can see, the world record on hook and line was like 84 pounds or 85
oh my
pounds
goodness.
or something like that. So this would have dwarfed.
Well, it's still, regardless, very cool. You've got the pictures to prove it. You've got a great story. And I'm sure you'll be writing this up for your different outlets, too.
Yeah, here I am on a little sabbatical, and I worked most all day yesterday writing an article about it, so you are correct.
So other than the setting and surroundings and the temperature of the water and the color of the sand and the sunshine, was surf fishing down there pretty much the same as surf fishing up here?
It really is. And the more I saltwater fish, freshwater I can hold my own a little bit. Saltwater is always a new experience for me. And I learn every time I fish saltwater. And basically, now this almost looked like a giant perch rig. They call it a Pompano rig. It had a big 4-ounce weight at the bottom, had 2 hooks up above. So it'd be very similar to a perch rig. But another thing, it's the other rigs you use, like a Carolina-style rig with a leader and a hook, almost identical to how we fish salmon and trout in the Great Lakes surf.
A 4-ounce weight, that thing could be dangerous when you cast it.
Oh, yeah. So I've got this 20-pound main line. I actually have a 50-pound, what they call shock leader. So about 20 feet of 50-pound test I put in there. Because when you go to cast these big, heavy weights, you can bust them off in a heartbeat if you were just using all, straight 20-pound or whatever. And actually, 4 ounces isn't that heavy for the surf. I've got some, I'm going to have to probably use them today. The surf is up. We got a south wind, so waves are crashing in pretty good. They call them Sputnik sinkers. And it's kind of a pyramid-looking sinker, but they have these little wire arms to hold that in there. And they're like 5 to 6 ounces and even heavier. Huh. So, yeah, that's probably the big difference is how much weight we use to get our lines out and do, and fish them. But other than that, the rigs are almost identical.
We're talking with outdoor writer and veteran outdoorsman Dave Rose. His website is wildfishing.com. That's wildfishing.com. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show, but when we come back, I want to take the conversation back to the original direction I was thinking about, fishing here in Michigan, springtime fishing here in Michigan. As you can tell, Dave is a surf fishing expert, but he also spends a lot of time on the piers. He spends a lot of time chasing steelhead, and this right now is a wonderful time of year to be out there. As the water temps warm up, as some of these fish start to spawn, as like walleye right now, these big femurs are just filled with eggs. That's an interesting conversation too, right? And we'll save that for a future show. But the ethics of keeping egg-laden females. Well, it's different on an inland lake as it would be on Lake Erie or the Detroit River. In fact, Ali Shakur will be with us on next week's show to talk more about that. But first, we'll take a break here on Outdoor Magazine. When we come back, wrap up our conversation with Dave Rose of wildfishing.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us on our newest affiliate, Sports Extra 1330 WTRX in Flint. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on ESPN 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan tracker and Angler Qwest headquarters. For more info, check out the website, linwoodbeachmarina.com. linwoodbeachmarina.com. I have not talked with the guys at Linwood Beach in the last few days, but I gotta believe it won't be long now until the ramps are going to be open. Maybe a little bit longer. Stay in touch with them. Check out the website, linwoodbeachmarina.com, and you can find out when things are going to be opening up there. We're talking now with Dave Rose, veteran outdoor writer, outdoor expert, all-around good guy, who, because Showspan couldn't have their shows this spring, Dave is intimately involved in those shows. He was able to take a little time off and head south, where he caught what could be a world record sturgeon. But Dave, let's turn our attention back here to Michigan. What is it about surf fishing that you like so much?
Well, just like down here in the ocean, the Great Lakes, you don't always know what you're going to catch. So it could be a steelhead, could be a brown, could be a spring Chinook or coho or whatnot. And there's more to it than just aimlessly lobbing a bait out into the surf and waiting for a hit. You kind of got to read the water, just like fly anglers, read a river and they know where there's a rock and an eddy and then this and that. They read the water. Well, you kind of got to read the water when you're surf fishing, and this on the Great Lakes is just as important. And a good pair of polarized glasses to see where a sandbar might be or might not be, or a little trough, or if you got waves coming in, there's rip currents that go out. That's, of course, washing food and whatnot out into the Great Lakes. So I think it's just a diversity, and I'm really starting to get into trying new baits or different baits than the norm.
Well, I want to go back a step here. What role do those sandbars play? You say you're looking for sandbars. Why is that important?
Well, generally speaking, you don't want to cast and have your offering right on top of a sandbar. Those fish are going to be in troughs swimming along those sandbars as a little break line. But if you look out there and you notice that, the water might be 5 feet deep on average, but there's a sandbar that goes up to 2 feet, and you cast right on top of it and have your bait there, it's probably more than likely not going to get hit as much as it would be if you were in the trough. And sometimes it's just a very short cast. There's usually, you got your beach, you've got a trough of deeper water, then there's another sandbar that goes up, and then you've got deeper water, of course, on the other side. So it could be a very short cast and literally just mere feet from the shoreline, casting out to Davy Jones's locker to get out to as deep a water as you can.
Well, and that was my question here. I mean, if you're, do you need waders? Do you need to get out there in the surf, or can you reach these sandbars from shore?
It depends on the area. Where I live in Traverse City, we've got East and West Grand Traverse Bays. If I go fish a particular river mouth or creek mouth, I might need waders to really get out there to get over a real shallow area, literally of hundreds of yards, and then cast out. Where there's other spots, like literally from shore, it's a lob, and I could be fishing in 40 feet of water just by casting from shore. So it just depends on the area. Yeah.
Wow. And you were talking about baits. What do you like, Dave?
Well, of course, spawn is the traditional thing. Spawn bags. You tie up spawn bags. The fresher the spawn, if you're lucky enough to get a 10 steelhead or have some leftover from a salmon or something like that, the fresher the spawn, it gives off a lot of great scent, and those fish find it. But for an example, this last fall, I was up on Lake Superior surf fishing, caught a bunch of steelhead, and I caught them on like literally a quarter piece of nightcrawler, just this little, not even an inch long piece of nightcrawler with a little float above it. And that's what I was catching my steelhead on, and the spawn, it was out fishing the spawn. So there's a lot more to about scent and whatnot. Shrimp, I'm going to start using shrimp more. You can buy shrimp at the local grocery store frozen, and usually that's a freshwater shrimp, so it doesn't have a lot of scent like you would the saltwater stuff. But you can buy preservatives that you can soak the shrimp in, which has krill and krill, the tiny little creatures that fish eat. So it gives it that a lot of scent. So some of the preservatives might actually be good with the shrimp and whatnot.
So when you coming back to Michigan, Dave?
Well, by the time this show airs, I should be home. How's that? So I've been south for a couple weeks, and of course it's great. But yeah, I'm learning stuff to bring back to Michigan. That's what I like about trying different places.
Bring it on back and share it with your readers. And if you want to share it with the Outdoor Magazine radio audience, you're always welcome here, my friend.
Oh, very good. I appreciate it.
All right, Dave Rose of Wild Fishing, wildfishing.com, talking about surf fishing. I used to love to surf fish. I mean, the great thing about surf fishing or pier fishing is you don't need a boat. Not that I have anything against boats. I love boats. But if you find yourself at a point in your life where you don't have a boat, this time of year, you can still get out there and catch Great Lakes fish from the surf. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Michigan Sportsman Against Hunger program with Dean Hall. It's not just a fall program. It goes year-round. Details after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM. That's 580 AM. You can hear us in Caro on WKYO, 1360 AM. Also on WIDL, 92.1 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946. That means 2021 is their 75th anniversary. How cool is that? The company started with Roland Boning inventing ferrule-tight to glue broadheads to wooden arrows. These days, the company continues to innovate. They sent me this the other day, a very cool, very simple, but very cool pocket quiver. And it's designed for, the range or when you're practicing. It's not designed for broadheads, but you slip it in your back pocket, and the arrows are right there where you need them. Very, very cool. So Boning continues to innovate, continues to come up with new products, even today after 75 years. Check out the website, boning.com. That's BOHNING.com. Another website I would like you to check out, sportsmenagainsthunger.org. Sportsmenagainsthunger.org, the website of the Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger group. Dean Hall is with that group, with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Dean, welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, hello, Mike. I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. But listen, you got my attention the other day because I always think of Sportsmen Against Hunger as a fall campaign to get deer hunters primarily to share their venison with needy people. But I saw a campaign now. You're saying, hey, don't forget about us in the springtime when you buy your new licenses. Tell me more about that, Dean.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. One of the ways that we get funding to help pay our processors for the deer that are generously donated by hunters at the point of during the hunting season when they do get a deer to our processors. We get funding that's put into the Sportsmen Against Hunger Fund. And that fund is generated whenever someone buys a hunting fishing license, permit allocation, put in for a bear, elk, pure Michigan lottery. They should be asked by their license retailer if they want to voluntarily donate $1 or more to the Sportsmen Against Hunger Fund. If people go on the website, on the DNR website, they're prompted to do that automatically. But a lot of the licensed vendors really don't ask the question. So the DNR, as well as ourselves, we're getting the word out there to make sure that basically License BA went on sale on March the 1st. And just make sure that they realize that, you know what, tell your licensed retailer that you want to voluntarily donate if you do, and don't wait for them to ask the question.
Remind me, I've seen that question when I buy my hunting licenses. Remind me, is it there when I buy a fishing license too?
Yes, sir.
Which is what a lot of people are doing right now this time of year, Dean.
Yes, they are.
How much or how big of an impact have you guys made in the last few years on what you've been able to donate to people?
Well, I mean, ever since we first started in the early years, I mean, it's well over 800,000 pounds of venison that's been donated. But just to give people an idea, funds that were pulled from or budgeted from the Sportsman Against Hunger Fund to the Michigan Sportsman Against Hunger program, plus voluntary donations that were made to people to our post office box, helped pay for over 85,514 pounds of ground venison during our contract year that starts on October 1st and it ends on September 30th the next year. All that venison went to 35 different processors in 31 different counties for 95 to 96 different agencies, helping to create up to and over 342,000 hot and nourishing meals for the hungry of the state.
That's wonderful. Is it just venison, or could it be boar? Could it be small game? Could it even be fish?
At this point in time, all it is venison right now. All it is deer.
So if I look in my freezer this time of year and I go, man, I got a lot of venison yet here, can I do anything with that now?
Well, and we really don't take pre-processed venison. We just deal with the deer that are donated directly to our processors, and we do get asked this question quite often. What we do recommend is people within certain counties, certain cities, to look up any of the food pantries, shelters, food banks near them, and contact them to see if they'll take the professionally processed, wrapped, dated, and frozen venison they have that they want to basically give from their own freezers.
Gotcha. But in the meantime, when you buy your new hunting or fishing licenses, don't forget to make that contribution to Sportsmen Against Hunger. Dean, you guys are doing a great job.
Hey, Mike, thank you very much, and thank you for supporting us.
Well, it's my pleasure. Again, you guys are doing a great job. The website, sportsmenagainsthunger.org, sportsmenagainsthunger.org. We'll take a break here for the top of the hour on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll check in with Brad Dupuie of Apex Marine, Michigan-based Apex Marine, the parent company of Angler Qwest Pontoons and now Polarcraft boats as well. I've been running an Angler Qwest the last, 6-7 years now. Whenever they came up with that first prototype model, I am absolutely sold on this design, and I wasn't at first. I was a little hinky about it, but once I got on the water, I said, this is indeed the real deal. Also, Nick Green from MUCC will join us, and Addie Dutton from the DNR talking about some gear restrictions on some of the rivers on Saginaw Bay. That's all coming up in hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yiter Insurance Group, Angler Qwest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. You know, I say this is an Outdoor Magazine radio show, and it seems kind of crazy, right? If you're listening to me on your local radio station, you're saying, well, of course it's a radio show. But there's a lot of confusion these days. Even people who listen to the show on their local AM or FM station sometimes refer to it, in fact, oftentimes refer to it as a podcast. And I get that. Podcasting is a big name these days, but and nothing against podcasting. I love podcasts. I have several of them, but there aren't many statewide outdoor radio shows, right? So that, I think, is, to be honest with you, kind of cool. And I think the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station, because there you get your local news, weather, sports, even your local commercials. Maybe there's something you want to take advantage of. The broadcast stations get the content of the show before the podcasts do. So if you can, again, please listen on your local AM or FM station. But if you can't, if your local affiliate doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, isn't it nice to know that the podcast is there? I upload the podcast usually Sunday afternoon at 6 o'clock. And you can hear them. You can hear it many, many places, including my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I also put it up on the Mike Avery Outdoors Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music. It's on Audible, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Radio.com, and I even put it on YouTube. I know. Kind of crazy, right? Why would you put an audio program on YouTube? Well, I do, and people watch/listen there. So you can, anywhere you get your podcasts from, you can get the Outdoor Magazine podcast. Speaking of podcasting, I also produce monthly podcasts for several of the companies I work with, including Offshore Tackle, Jay's Sporting Goods, Killer Food Plots, Polarcraft Boats, Shadow Hunter Blinds, and Angler Qwest Boats. And speaking of Angler Qwest, a company that I've been working with for actually quite a few years now, ever since I saw the first prototype sitting on the grass at an outdoor show in Freeland years ago, I looked at that thing and I probably cocked my head and said, wow, that's a fishing machine. And I was fortunate and blessed to be able to form a partnership with the folks at Angler Qwest. I found out they were a Michigan-based company, and that really sealed the deal. I got in touch with Brad Dupuie. And Brad is a hardcore angler, but he's also the guy behind the Angler Qwest boat. He's the guy who designed that original prototype, who has continued to tweak the design to improve the design. Struck up a friendship with Brad, working with Brad, have had a chance to fish with Brad several times and hopefully several times more here this spring and summer. And he has graciously offered us some time here on the Outdoor Magazine radio show as well. Brad, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, we're doing great. Mike, I'm looking forward to talking Angler Qwest, especially with all the warm weather that's upon us. It's a great time of year and looking forward to open water and getting the boat out.
Well, Brad, whenever you and I start talking Angler Qwest, it could be a long conversation.
Yeah, we might be looking at an hour deal here, for sure.
We could talk for a long time. I got to tell you, Brad, what I was saying in the intro here is absolutely true. I have been so impressed with the boat, the fishability, the ride, the comfort, but also very impressed with you guys there at Apex Marine in St. Louis. You run a first-class shop there, and you've really made some very impressive inroads into the fishing boat and tri-tune market.
Absolutely. The name of the boat, the product itself is really getting out there. I can tell you firsthand that we're seeing sales throughout the whole nation. It's really interesting as we come out with new models, different designs. Some may not be as optimum as what you and I would run to troll up here in the Great Lakes, but you see other iterations of it that really excel down in different portions of the U.S., down in Texas, in that southern market. So it's really, really cool to see the expansion of the product line throughout the nation. So we notice on our website inquiries, we get all kinds of inquiries from all over the U.S. So in the first couple of years, Michigan was really the predominant geographic location they were getting inquiries from, but now we're seeing them all over the U.S., and it's really cool, Mike.
And, of course, one of the main questions at first early on was, well, you can't take a pontoon out on big water, even a triple tube. You can't take it out on big water. Do these southern fisheries, do these southern markets share that same concern, or do they look at it differently than we did?
Well, I say they look at it a little differently. There are times where that is brought up, but honestly, they look at the sheer fishability, they look at the design, they look at the practicality, and then that's what gets them. Their bodies of water typically are much smaller outside of some of these large reservoirs. The triple tube is a product or a pontoon in general, has been a mainstay in the southern portion of the U.S. for many, many years. So it's very well accepted, and they see the fishability and the features that make Angler Qwest what it is, and that's really what makes it shine. So pretty cool to see, Mike, for sure.
Brad, when you took that first prototype out on Saginaw Bay, you launched it there at Linwood Beach Marina and took it out. Were you, be honest with me, were you a little, I don't want to say nervous, but did you know what to expect from that boat? You designed it, you saw it on paper, but you hadn't been on the water with it yet.
Well, I got to say, I was absolutely skeptical of that. I come from a fishing V-boat background. I owned 4 different V-bottom hardcore fishing boats before I ran an Angler Qwest. And that very first time, myself and my family went out on Saginaw Bay out of Linwood Beach Marina, like you said. We probably had a 10, 15 mile an hour southwest wind, and I didn't really know what to expect, but I tell you what, that one experience sold me, because I got back to Linwood Beach Marina, I told these guys, I said, man, this boat is awesome. The stability, the room, the ability to put a spread out and to walk around, and the comfort level, it was amazing to me. So that very first time I took that boat out, really sealed it for me, and I continue to enjoy it as we speak.
Is the triple tube, the tri-tune design, is that really the key if you're going to take it out on big water?
Absolutely. The triple tube gives you that much more flotation, keeps you up without those tubes buried nearly as much. It also allows you to put larger motors to be able to get yourself up on plane, get back to shore if you're 10, 15 miles out and you get some rough weather. So triple tube is absolutely critical for flotation, the ability to put a larger motor. I absolutely tell people all the time, any kind of big water, I recommend triple.
Well, and speaking of big motors, that's the trend these days, right? The more horsepower, the better. Is there a limit? How is that determined? Does the Coast Guard tell you how big an outboard you can put on there, or do you guys as a manufacturer have some leeway there?
We do have a little leeway, but we also have calculations due to the air volume that is in the tubes themselves that we utilize to really rate our boats. Of course, we get them out and test them. Hey, that's part of my job. Got to get out there and test that thing on Saginaw Bay. So a lot of it has to do with calculations of the air volume within the tube, and it is a Coast Guard type regulation. And, a lot of it's our testing that we do to ensure that we got a viable product, Mike.
What about the size of the tubes? I would imagine if you put smaller tubes on those things, you wouldn't have the flotation and you wouldn't get the ride.
Absolutely. We're an 8-foot wide platform that has 24-inch pontoons. So if you do back off on the diameter of those tubes, it absolutely will affect your flotation and the ability to put bigger motors. The bigger tubes really keep you that much more out of the water and gets you right up on top really quick when you hammer it, and that is the key, that triple tube, getting up on top versus cutting through like with what you do on a V-bottom boat.
Well, I tell people this all the time. If once you've spent some time on an Angler Qwest and you know how to run them and trim them, honest to goodness, you can easily get on top of a 2-foot chop, sometimes pushing 3 feet, and just get on top of it and skim across the top of the waves. It's like nothing I've ever seen before, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you start getting into those 3-4 footers and bigger, it's just like any boat. The captain has to hit those waves at a certain angle that makes that ride a little more optimum and work the throttle a little bit depending on the waves. But like you said, 1 to 2 footers, you get the front end of that boat up, get it up, right up on top, and you can, like you said, literally skim across that surface versus, like I've said in the past, cutting through as you do on a V-bottom boat.
Well, it's a difference in philosophy. You ride on top of the waves instead of plowing through them. And, Brad, it's proven to be very successful for you guys. Hang tight. Listen, we got to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Brad Dupuie of Apex Marine, the parent company of Angler Qwest Boats, and Angler Qwest is Q-W-E-S-T. The website, anglerqwestpontoons.com, Angler Qwest Pontoons. Qwest is Q-W-E-S-T. Also, the parent company of Polarcraft Boats as well. I'll tell you, Polarcraft, the best riding aluminum V-bottom boat I've ever fished out of, and I had one for a couple of years. But I'll take, for what I use, for how I fish, I will take the Angler Qwest, and I'm looking forward to running an Angler Qwest this summer on Saginaw Bay. Can't wait to get out there and chase those walleye. That's one of Brad's favorite areas, as well as also he fishes Lake Michigan, southern Lake Michigan, too. Anyway, more on that after the break with Brad Dupuie of Apex Marine, Angler Qwest, anglerqwestpontoons.com, right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, AM and FM, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. And you can hear us in Holland on WHTC, again, AM and FM, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Great Lakes Charter Training. If you've ever wanted to be a captain, I am absolutely convinced this is your best option. This is how I got my captain's license, and I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't have been able to do it without Captain Mel Stackpool, Captain John Littlefield, and the rest of the instructors helping me get through the class, helping me to be prepared for the Coast Guard exam, walking me through the process of the paperwork, and it's an ordeal. But I was able to get my license thanks to the folks at Great Lakes Charter Training. They have a series of classes around the state coming up here. If you want to learn more, if you want to schedule a class, find out when and where they are available, head to the website, glctraining.com. That's glctraining.com. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and head on over to AnglerQwestPontoons.com. And Quest is Q-W-E-S-T, AnglerQwestPontoons.com. With us right now from Angler Qwest Pontoons, Brad Dupuie, Mr. Angler Qwest himself, the man behind that original design and all of the changes and improvements since then. Brad, I've got to ask you, you guys have come up with this new tagline, this new slogan, Built with Purpose. What does that mean?
Well, you know, when you sit back and look at an Angler Qwest and you look at all the features that make an Angler Qwest what it is, from binary walls to high-pressure washdowns to all the little features, they're all there for a purpose. And that purpose is to help aid the fishermen during the fishing experience and overall to make that boat a better fishing boat. So it's something that we really focus on, and there's just so many things that we can talk about that are there for a particular purpose, whether it's in general or to the species-specific products that we're really targeting given features for a given species of fishing. So Built with Purpose is an absolute great tagline, and it is really what makes an Angler Qwest what it is.
And I should mention, if I didn't earlier, that Angler Qwest boats are built in St. Louis, Michigan, at your plant there in St. Louis. But I got to ask you, Brad, as hot as the boating industry is today, and we've all in the outdoor industry been in some weird way blessed by COVID because people are flocking to the outdoors these days, what is the availability? I mean, can I get an Angler Qwest now if I'm looking for one for this spring?
Well, this spring, the volume of boats that are out there in the marketplace are somewhat limited. There are dealers that do have some in stock and have some on order and have some coming. So the best thing you can do is go to our website and look at your local dealer and see what they have. And it's funny because we've talked about this in the fall and early winters. Hey, get your order in the pipeline so you can have it by spring. I hate to say this, but
we told you so.
we've got to even be more proactive now, even looking into the new year. We're out very far. You said COVID, and it's been a blessing to a certain point, but I'll tell you, it's also stymied supply a little bit, and everybody's had interruptions from supply chain due to all the COVID stuff. So we're a little bit limited on being able to build the volume that we want, but that's improving. That's getting a little better. But hey, if it isn't COVID, it's the winter storms in Texas, and what's next? So that's just what we have to deal with, and we're going to produce what we can. We are definitely seeing things improve on part availability, and I can't encourage a person enough to get into their dealer and start speccing it out and get it in the pipeline.
The fact that you do so much in-house, though, and you rely a minimal amount on outside suppliers, that's got to give you a leg up over a lot of the other manufacturers.
It does. It certainly helps us. If we did not create our own furniture in-house, that would have a huge impact on us. If we relied on other companies to create our furniture for us, that would be a big deal. So you are absolutely right. The fact that we are quite vertical does help us out tremendously. There still is a lot of componentry and things of that nature that affect us. But yeah, being vertical has definitely helped us through this time, Mike.
Brad, when you look at this latest lineup of models, compare that to that original prototype, I mean, what kind of changes have you seen, and how much more can you do to improve this boat?
Well, I don't think there's ever a time when you can't continue to improve and change. So as we move forward, there's always little things we're going to try to improve from a durability standpoint, from minor little things that are items on the boat that could use improving. And, from where we first started to where we are now, it is absolutely night and day. A lot of the things that have changed are also items that help the production aspect of it, make things more modular, make things so that they're a little more producible. And I don't ever foresee us really not evolving the design and making it better. And there'll be some good changes this year. And it's something that we always have to keep on top of, because it's a work in progress and always will be, and we're always going to try to continue to improve.
The fact that you're not owned by a big corporate conglomerate, does that mean that I can basically put any outboard on an Angler Qwest I want? I can put any electronics, and I know that's true because actually I'm going to be running Garmin this year as opposed to Lowrance. I'm looking forward to that. But does that give you a certain amount, or give us as customers a certain amount of flexibility?
It absolutely does, and that is a big deal. We are not owned by a corporate conglomerate, as you say, that dictates what we can and cannot put on our boats due to the ownership. We are able to put any motor brand, any electronics, and that's a big deal, because one of the big items that are shortcomings in the supply chain are motors. Motors are a big issue, and the fact that we can put any brand of motor really, really helps us right now. If we were dependent on one motor brand, boy, that could really cripple you. So that is helping us now, and it does also help the retail public because they can get the motor of their choice.
One of the trends I'm seeing from the outside on pontoons, aside from bigger motors, more horsepower, is dual outboards. I can't believe you'd put 200-300 horse outboards on a pontoon, but people are doing it. Is that something? Will we see a kicker added to an Angler Qwest? Do you ever foresee putting dual outboards on?
Well, we don't necessarily have plans of putting dual large power plants like that. However, we do a lot of kicker motors with our big motors. That is a very common trend that people are doing on Angler Qwest, pairing up a 9.9 kicker along with their 300 or 200. So outside of kicker motors, dual motors aren't something that are on our radar, but you never know. Evolution definitely occurs, and if the market demands it and you see it and you continue to get asked about it, it's something we'll probably work on for sure.
Well, I can understand wanting a kicker for the safety aspect. If your big motor goes down, you got another way to get into shore. But the big motors I've been running the last few years, they troll down so nice. I haven't even had a need to troll with a kicker. The big motors just purrs along so nice and smooth and slow.
And I totally agree with you. I personally, on an Angler Qwest, I believe the big motor can give you everything you need from a trollability standpoint. Now, if you're on a V-bottom 18-foot aluminum Polarcraft, I think a kicker is going to be so much more prevalent and standard on a boat that's going on Saginaw Bay versus a pontoon. It's a little larger. It's got a little more of a footprint. You can definitely get them slowed right down, especially with the digital throttle and shifts. There's troll control systems. Obviously, there's trolling plates and drift bags that a person can deploy to help slow you down. So I'm in agreement with you. With these 4 strokes and how quiet, how fuel efficient they are, boy, they can give you pretty much everything you need on an Angler Qwest. Absolutely.
How is that Polarcraft acquisition going for you guys?
Polarcraft is going great. We've got a great person leading the charge down there. Our sales manager is doing great, and all the sales guys. We're out into August, September timeframe with Polarcraft. We are improving the volume. We have created another parallel line, which is a robotic welded line for our Mod V and John boats. So that's going to add a tremendous parallel stream of activity versus the standard V-bottom stuff that we're doing. So honestly, that stuff is going great. Our quality is high. There's a high demand for the product, and it is really growing down there. We are super, super excited about Polarcraft and how Polarcraft is doing. It took some time to figure some things out, understand the product, understand the needs from a plant standpoint, and they were really making inroads on that, and it is going great, and volume that we're putting out the door is increasing significantly. Sales is there. It's going great, Mike.
Well, I tell you, Brad, I am jonesing so bad to get out on the open water, and I'm hoping that you and I can do this spring. We can get down on the Detroit River and do another Wednesday night live fishing out of either a Polarcraft or an Angler Qwest. We weren't able to do it last spring because of COVID, but listen, let's try to do something like that this spring. I think that'd be a good goal to work toward.
Absolutely. Consider that done. I know Dan is going to be down there for several weeks. Dan Jordan of Team Angler Qwest, avid Angler Qwest boat owner and runner, so he's going to be down there. It could be. I look forward to that, and consider me in on that deal, Mike.
Consider it done. All right, Brad. Listen, always a pleasure. Congrats on the success of Angler Qwest. You guys have done a wonderful job. Everybody I take out on that boat is absolutely blown away, and you can't really fully understand it until you fish out of it. So I would encourage people, if you can, to get on an Angler Qwest and check it out. And Brad, keep up the good work, and I'll look forward to seeing what you guys have in store for us in the future.
Thanks a lot, Mike, and it was great talking with you, and let's get out fishing soon.
Absolutely. Brad Dupuie of Apex Marine, the parent company of Angler Qwest Pontoons and Polarcraft. AnglerQuestPontoons.com is the website, AnglerQuestPontoons.com. I talked to Brad. My boat, it's the boat that I'm going to be running this summer, is scheduled to be in production here pretty soon. They're actually going to put a 300-horse Merc on this year's boat. I'm looking forward to that. I'll take it over to the folks at Linwood Beach Marina. They'll get it all ready to go, and before you know it, I'll be on the water. I am looking forward, actually, to running some Garmin electronics this year. I've had no problem with Lowrance, but I'm willing to try something else. And Garmin is tied into one of their own electric bow mount motors that's supposed to be a little bit more battery efficient. I'm looking forward to that as well. As I get that boat on the water, as I run it, put some hours on it, I'll give you a report, a lot of pictures, a lot of video, a lot of social media stuff. So I'm jonesing to get out there. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Nick Green of MUCC talks about a Sandhill crane hunt and maybe a wolf hunt as well, right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Houghton Lake on two stations, the Twister 92.1 WTWS and on Powerhouse Station, Classic Rock 98.5 WUPS. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website, mucc.org. That's mucc.org. By the way, if you want to save 25% on your MUCC membership, either the first time you sign up or your renewal, you can use a promo code Mike, all caps, M-I-K-E, promo code Mike, and save 25%. So you join a great organization that's fighting for your hunting and fishing rights here in Michigan, and you save some money. It's a win-win. MUCC.org. Use the promo code Mike, all caps. Right now, I do want to talk with the folks at MUCC, specifically Nick Green, who is their Chief Information Officer. Nick, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Well, it's, we look around, springtime's in the air. It's a great time of year, isn't it, Nick?
It is. We have geese returning and sandhill cranes flying over, and the grass is all visible now, at least here around Lansing. So we're entering kind of that stage of new life here in the state, and we're all excited for that.
Speaking of sandhills, I hear some rumors. What's going on?
So this past week, the Senate Natural Resources Committee weighed testimony on Senate Resolution 20, which would, sponsored by Ed McGroom, and would encourage the NRC to name sandhill cranes a game species. MUCC is in support of naming cranes a game species per a 2017 member-passed resolution. I've really spent the last week diving into the best available science we have and looking at a 2010 management plan that our RDNR, in fact, helped develop with other states throughout the flyway. And it's very clear that we are well above and beyond what the upper threshold of the eastern population of sandhill cranes recommendation is. And we are going to continue to advocate and push for a hunt after the proper processes and protocols are gone through.
You said an interesting word. You said encourage the NRC. They can't direct or mandate. It's an encouragement?
Yes. So the way sandhill cranes would work is, we have an eastern population here in Michigan. That's the subpopulation we're talking about. They are managed federally and actually internationally through Canada and the U.S. So members of a flyway come together, specifically the Mississippi and Atlantic flyways, and they determine management goals along with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So if our NRC were to name sandhill cranes a game species, the next step would then be the DNR needing to apply under the 2010 management plan for a hunt, and then that would have to go to the Flyway Council. They would have to approve it. Then it would have to go to the Fish and Wildlife Service.
And then the antis would come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, I mean, that is a worry. We've seen this from all angles, whether it's cranes, wolves, you name it. I mean, the new propaganda slogan seems to be trophy hunters, and they're really applying that to hunters just like you and I out there ethically harvesting deer, abiding by state and federal laws. And they're pulling on folks' heartstrings. So we need to try to cut through some of that with some fact and kind of appeal to people's critical thinking skills, I think, is what we need to be doing.
Nick, is it true that here in Michigan, a farmer can get a crop damage permit to shoot sandhills, but then they can't use them? They've just got to leave them lay?
Yes, that is true, and it is something that has been grossly misunderstood by us, the legislature, even Fish and Wildlife Agency, or biologists. Even if sandhills were named a game species, that would not change. So because cranes are a migratory bird managed, through a flyway and multiple state and federal agencies, through depredation permits in the spring, those cranes would still not be able to be consumed regardless of their designation in Michigan.
But if we get them named a game species and eventually we have a season, it'll knock down the population to hopefully let hunters take those critters and eat them and hopefully solve some of the farmers' problems.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea behind managing a species through hunting, is you are keeping that population balance in check, and in turn, you're achieving some of those 2010 management plan goals, one of which is to mitigate or help to eliminate agricultural conflicts.
Well, I hope this process works its way through the system, and I hope it happens fast. Another quick question, very quick, because I got to let you go. I see the legislature, at least some legislators, want a wolf hunt. Can you tell me anything about that?
So similar to the crane hunt, we have Senate Resolution 15. It was passed by the Senate, I believe, on Tuesday. That would encourage the NRC to go through the 2015 management plan that was developed and establish a hunt and coordinating with the DNR. MUCC has remained neutral on that. We're very big on the process. We've seen wolves litigated the last decade, so we need to be thorough and deliberate with our process here.
All right, Nick, I know you folks at MUCC will keep an eye on this, and you and I will talk again periodically, and you'll give us an update. I'd appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Nick Green of MUCC, MUCC.org. Again, use the promo code Mike, all caps MIKE, save 25% on your MUCC membership. I appreciate those guys doing a great job keeping an eye on things in Lansing, and in fact, even in Washington as well. And I consider them watchdogs and looking out for the best interest of Michigan hunters and anglers. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this second hour with this week's Ask Avery segment right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM and north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is you pose a question to me. I make it part of the show. If I can, I will answer the question directly. If I can't, I will go to the experts and get their input, and this time that's exactly what I've done. A question, actually several questions came into me regarding the upcoming walleye fishing closed season on inland rivers. Now, across the state, March 15th at midnight closes walleye fishing on the rivers, the inland rivers. The Great Lakes remain open, and the St. Clair and Detroit rivers remain open as well. When they talk about connecting waters, they don't mean any river that connects to the Great Lakes, because the Saginaw connects to the Great Lakes, the Grand connects to the Great Lakes, the St. Joe, the Manistee, the Muskegon, they all connect to the Great Lakes. But they will be closed to walleye fishing March 15th at midnight. Then the question then becomes, well, if it's closed to walleye, what can you fish for? Because you can't target walleye. In the case of rivers around Saginaw Bay, there are some gear restrictions that are coming up, but they're not going to change till April 1st. But Addie Dutton, a fisheries biologist with the DNR, is a person who's been very much involved in this. She's been working on coming up with this verbiage, and I want to see if we can get a little bit of an update on where this is all going. Addie, welcome to the Outdoor Magazine show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Well, the pleasure is mine. So tell me what you folks have been working on.
So out of the Bay City office, we've been working on a new gear restriction, which is under Fisheries Order 226, which basically encompasses large portions of Bay, Saginaw, Midland, and Genesee counties, as well as a little bit in Macomb County, to simplify the gear restriction regulation and to make it have additional opportunities for anglers to target species that are open, such as bass or yellow perch or black crappie or things of that nature.
So what will anglers be allowed to use and what can't they use?
So starting April 1st, the new regulation will read that anglers are limited to using unweighted single-pointed hooks, natural baits with sinkers or weights, or artificial lures with unweighted single-pointed hooks. So the key word there is unweighted, meaning essentially like no jig heads or things that have weight that's rigidly attached to the single-pointed hook, but you could throw lures that have like a traditional Rapala as long as they only had single-pointed hooks, so no treble hooks, as an example.
Well, and the thinking is, there's no guarantee you wouldn't catch a walleye on those other baits, but at that point, you're not really targeting a walleye like you would with a jig head or something else.
Exactly. So if an angler wanted to go out and fish for bass and throw, something traditionally used to target bass like a spinner bait, something like that is perfectly acceptable, and you're targeting a species that is open for fishing.
Now, I notice you said this goes into effect on April 1st, yet the walleye season closes on the rivers on March 15th. Why the disconnect? Why the 2-week delay?
So that's because the way that the fishing order process works is it is in the same cycle as fishing licenses. So each year on April 1st, you have to have the next year's fishing license. So this year would be 2021. So our fishing laws are coincided exactly with your fishing license. So that's why this year it'll be a bit of a split. From here on out, it'll be in effect March 16th through the Friday before the last Saturday in April.
Gotcha, when the season's open back up. And again,
Correct.
This is for tributaries of Saginaw Bay. You've got some other rivers around the state that are outside of your area, but there's no gear restrictions there, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So this fisheries order is almost entirely specific to the Saginaw Bay watershed, with the exception of the Clinton River in Macomb County.
And why? What about the Clinton River?
So the Clinton River is included in this because it has similar issues in terms of wanting to specifically protect walleye in inland rivers that are spawning. The rest of the state is just a standard, you cannot target walleye, but there isn't a specific gear restriction during that time period of March 16th before the last
Addie.
Saturday in April.
I appreciate your time. Real quick, will you guys be up electrofishing, shocking and tagging walleye in the Tittabawassee below Dow Dam again this spring?
Absolutely. We have a goal of tagging 3,000 fish every year, so we'll be on the Tittabawassee and the Cucaulin Rivers tagging this year.
All right, have fun with that. Addie Dutton from the DNR, a fisheries biologist out of the Bay City District. The website for the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. And again, thank you to our friends at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. They love to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to celebrate springtime in the outdoors with Tom Lounsbury, and then wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner will help us to wrap that up. If you want, check in with me, the website MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can always send me a question for the Ask Avery segment to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Hour number 3 coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Qwest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us. This is something I look forward to every week. People say, Avery, well, not people. Some people say, Avery, you only work 3 hours a week. That's because I do a 3-hour weekly radio show. And, come on, you got to give me a little bit of a break. There is some prep, and there's some post-production, there's some distribution, and there's some marketing. So I actually do work more than 3 hours a week. But I do look forward to the 3 hours each week that I spend here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. It's wonderful. It's a blessing to be able to especially at this point in my life, to be able to do something that I do truly enjoy. I really do look forward to it. And it means a lot to me. Promoting the outdoor lifestyle, defending the outdoor lifestyle, encouraging people to get involved in the outdoor lifestyle, trying to cover topics that help people to better enjoy their outdoor experiences. For me, this is absolutely wonderful. I enjoy the outdoors. I grew up in the outdoors. I don't pretend, even now, after doing this for many, many years, I don't pretend to be an expert hunter. I don't pretend to be an expert angler. I enjoy them. I participate in them. But my level of expertise, it's where I want it to be. It's where I want it to be. There are a lot of people who know a lot more about a lot of different things than I do. And that's okay. But I know who those people are. And I know how to get in touch with them. And I don't hesitate to reach out to my friends who are bona fide, legitimate experts. And Tom Lounsbury is one of those people. And Tom is very generous with his time. And almost every time I reach out and say, can you join us on the show? He makes himself available, as he has done once again. Tom, welcome back. How are you?
Good. Going through a serious bout of spring fever right now.
Oh, man, ain't that the case?
This warming weather. And after February, February was downright brutal with the temperatures. And now all of a sudden it's balmy. And red-winged blackbirds have just showed up at my farm, and grackles, and I'm waiting to hear those tundra swans heading for Fish Point. It's going to happen with these south winds.
My last true sign of spring was when I got out of the studio here last week. I got home, I walked around to the backyard, and on the pond behind the house, the redwings were black. And for me, you had skunks and then sandhills, and then the redwings. When I first hear those, it's like, okay, spring is here. You betcha.
You betcha. Those are all good signs of spring coming. We're probably, being Michigan, we're going to get a blast or two, but by golly, like here in the thumb, the maple sap is running like crazy right now. I got some friends that are into it, and they are busy. So that's another good sign of spring coming.
Sure. And I bet our friends in the UP listening to us are going, you guys are crazy. It's still wintertime up here, and it will be for a while. But isn't that the case? In a state as big and geographically diverse as Michigan, you can have a change in seasons that are almost a month apart.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You can see it even when you leave the thumb and drive south with spring coming on. The further south you get into Michigan, you can see they're a week or so ahead of even here in the thumb.
Yeah. But isn't it a wonderful time of year, Tom?
Oh, I live for spring. I love that smell of earth, and there's just it's a smell in the air of rebirth or whatever. The trees are just waking up. It's a wonderful time to be outdoors.
And you, for folks who don't remember, I'll remind them, because you and I have talked about this in the past, but you have a very unique and very wonderful situation there in that you are third generation on the family farm.
Well, actually, fourth generation.
Fourth, even better.
Yep. Yeah, my late father who was into intensive farming, would probably send a bolt of lightning at me if he got a chance. But most of my farm is into CRP programs. It involves prairie grasses and evergreen windbreaks and shrubs and wildflowers, and I'm in heaven.
But to know that your family history goes back to a particular piece of ground that far, that's pretty cool.
Oh, yes. I feel it's definitely my roots are in this ground. In fact, I plan on having my ashes spread on it. So that way I can tell the kids, spread it here, spread it there. And if you go to sell it, well, you're selling a part of me.
Well, think of yourself as fertilizer. You'll help your food plots and you'll help your grasses to grow even better.
That's right. I owe the land that much, at least.
And isn't it interesting, though? I mean, you talked about this, that your dad looked at the land one way, and I don't want to say used it, but he enjoyed it one way, You look at it a different way, and you enjoy it in a different way. That's it's. I think it's just part of how we have come to look at our stewardship. I think stewardship is a good word for it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And his generation had its way, and I have mine, and I'm very happy with it. And it's good for the land. This land has been, plowed, worked and everything since the 1880s, and until I start doing what I'm doing, and it needs a nice rest. And in my opinion, I don't want to see a plow touch it for my remaining days. So that's the way I look at it, and I'm happy with that decision.
Do you have more wildlife on your property now than they did when your dad was farming it, when he had the crops in there, or are there fewer? Is there less?
Oh, way more. In fact, for instance, squirrels. We never had even squirrels on our farm because, he wasn't into trees or anything like that. Anyway, there's squirrels here now. They've been here for a while. Wild turkeys are actually coming in the spring. The hens really like my prairie grass for nesting in, and there's never been wild turkeys there. And, of course, if you want deer habitat, put in prairie grasses. Whitetails are very adaptable, and they definitely like the thermal qualities of prairie grass even in the winter.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I remember when I first put in my prairie grass, we started seeing deer in the yard. Of course, I have cedars here that, now they're Michigan palm trees. But anyway, I remember when we first started seeing the deer coming into the yard, because I have an apple orchard and I let the apples fall and whatever, and they were coming in for that, and I thought, oh, that is really wonderful. A couple of weeks later, I was saying, those rotten scoundrels. So it's something we have to deal with now, but the farm never, ever had deer in the winter because it was just bare farmland, but now, and I see... I'm a bit of a bird watcher. I'm seeing new species of birds all the time that I've never seen before, and that's an attraction of the habitat. So, I'm just loving my time here.
Tom, did you ever in years past fall into the trap, and I don't mean it in that negative of a sense, but for a long time, the DNR and other wildlife managers were pushing towards autumn olive, and now they say, "My gosh, you don't want autumn olive out there." I mean, did you have a bout with that for a while?
Oh my! I put in autumn olive. I'll have autumn olive to the end of days here. It is one of my, I actually, as a habitat, it was, as they said, like here on my heavy clay ground. Within 3 years, I had a berry producing hedge. And very, very rugged, can take a lot. I mean, rabbits gnawing on it, man, just makes it grow more, and you name it. And it's hard to deal with plant if I do controlled burns of my prairie grass. Now, that'll take care of young autumn olive, but the more mature stuff just shakes it off and starts sprouting again. And that is one of I have to keep that stuff out of my prairie grass blocks. And it's a continual battle because I already have this habitat established, and I do love it. I mean, the deer love it. I got parts in my windbreak that have the autumn olive. You can't even walk through it, and I think that's good to have for wildlife in an accessible area like that. Mm-hmm. But by the same token, I was told for 20 years plant autumn olive, and I sure did, and oh my.
We're talking with outdoor writer and veteran outdoorsman Tom Lounsbury. We've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show, but when we come back, I want to talk to Tom about his springtime adventures that he has planned. Well, we're going to talk about a little turkey hunting. Tom was involved in one of the very first turkey hunts in Michigan when the population was restored. In fact, I think it was the very first hunt, and he's been a hardcore turkey hunter ever since then. Tom also likes to do some fishing. We don't talk too much about that. I'll see what else is on his mind. And then when we're through talking with Tom, wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner will join me. And I think this week we were going to make the transition over to fish recipe. I don't know if it's walleye or steelhead or Maybe sucker. Dave should do a sucker. With the sucker runs coming up in the Rifle River and the people having smoked suckers, maybe Dave should do a sucker run. Anyway, all that and lots more coming up on this hour of Outdoor Magazine. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can always reach me via email, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Taos on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC, again, AM and FM, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. Plumbing, heating, air conditioning, ductwork cleaning, sump pumps, everything to keep the mechanics of your house running soundly, smoothly, reliably, to keep you comfortable in your home and comfortable knowing that they've got your back. I've worked with the folks from Wilds for many years in 2 different houses now. They've done a great job for me every time, and I know they will for you. That's why I am confident in recommending them and confident that you can invite them into your home and feel good about it. Check them out online at wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. And if you get a guy from Wilds to come over, don't hesitate to talk a little hunting or fishing, because most of those guys are hardcore hunters and anglers too. wildsplumbingandheating.com. Talking now with a friend of mine, Tom Lounsbury, noted outdoor writer, expert hunter, expert shooter. And Tom, if I remember right, weren't you actually involved in the very first Michigan turkey hunt somewhat, I don't know, 40 years ago at this point?
Well, more than that, it was 1968. and thanks to Mort Neff on Michigan Outdoors Television, I found out about it and found out how to apply, and I was one of 30 hunters to get a license.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I didn't know what I was doing, but boy, did it become addictive. And it's been it's still a learning process with these turkeys. But anyway, I absolutely love it. So
not that it matters, but did you get a bird that first season?
Heck no. I had a great time, and I actually had one coming in, and I said something wrong. When I got my turkey call, I had to order it special. They weren't on the shelves, and it had a little piece of paper telling you how to do it, and the DNR had sent a how-to-do list as well, and telling you to shoot for the head and all this stuff, and I came close, but no cigar. I said something wrong, and like I say, it's been a learning process ever since, and I just absolutely love it and look forward to it. Spring turkey hunting to me is a part of spring in Michigan, and boy, you don't have to go far to go turkey hunting in this state. That's a wonderful
not these
part
days.
about it.
Not these days. Yeah, but I'm thinking about you in that first hunt, and it was a whole new ball game. I mean, you didn't know anything about it. You had nowhere to go, no resources to draw on.
Nope.
A whole different ball game than what we deal with today.
Oh yeah. And that was my first encounter with Michigan coyotes up north.
Really?
They were singing away, and I was camping by myself, and fortunately I knew it was coyotes, so I wasn't all that bothered. In fact, it was kind of a wonderful serenade. I had a little sinkhole that had bluegills in it that I camped near where I could fly fish. You could only hunt in the morning back then, so I could fly fish in the afternoon, and when you go to bed at night and you got a Browning Auto 512 gauge, I wasn't afraid of much.
That sounds like a wonderful experience. But as you say, turkey hunting here in Michigan has become part of our outdoor heritage in the springtime now. I mean, if you want a permit these days, you can get it. Not like the old days where you had to rely on a draw. If you want to go turkey hunting in Michigan this spring, you can do it.
Oh, absolutely. That you can get that 234 license right over the counter. And what I like about it is I get most of the month of May to hunt. And actually, I can use it anywhere in the state. I can only use it on private land here in the Thumb, but I can go. I love going up by Atlanta, hunting the turkeys up near Atlanta. I love that rolling atmosphere up there, and I like to run and gun, and that gives you the space to do it on the public land up there and the Pigeon River Forest and everything. Anyway, Michigan. I love the fact that I live in Michigan. And what a wonderful, wonderful state to cover outdoor topics on.
It's interesting. Your style of turkey hunting and mine they couldn't be more different. You're a run and gun. I am a setup with a bow in a blind over some decoys, and I wait them out. But we both absolutely love the experience.
Oh, absolutely. It is. There's nothing quite like that spring atmosphere. And I mean, you're witnessing the trees starting to, bud out, leaf out. There's that smell in the air, and what a cure for spring fever is being out there talking turkeys. So,
and that's part of the appeal. That's what I tell new turkey hunters. The first time you make a call and a bird responds, you are probably hooked.
Oh my! And if it keeps coming closer, let me tell you, you never get over the jitters when that happens.
Right. I mean, I love to bear hunt, but you can't interact with bears that way. I love to whitetail hunt, but you can't really interact with whitetails to that degree. Yeah. I guess maybe duck hunting you could, but I'm not a duck hunter.
Yeah. When it comes to ducks, I go with people that know how to do it. I am the worst duck caller you ever heard. I can call practically everything else but waterfowl, and I like to be with a guy that knows that this duck is that duck. Yeah, with the point system and everything.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy doing that, but I go with people that really know what they're doing. What is good timing, we're talking right now, we're talking spring. I am in the process of drafting a letter to the Natural Resources Commission. And ever since March of 2020, they've had virtual meetings. And you know me, Mike, I'm not into virtual.
Yep.
And anyway, so I'm drafting a letter. But what I would like to see for spring is a Michigan black bear hunt. Our neighbor Ontario reinstated their spring hunt 5 years ago. It's a good management tool. There's 8 states that allow spring black bear hunting. And I'm talking bait only. And what I would like to see is the last 2 weeks of May allowed to be able to put bait out, and then have the season in early June, which takes place during the bear rut. At that time frame isn't interfering with bears coming out of hibernation. They're getting into their summer mode, and I really think it'd be a nice opportunity for Michigan, and I think the resource can handle it. And anyway, I don't want to change anything at all about the fall bear seasons. One of my bucket lists is to go with bear hounds after a bear. And I think that's all wonderful tradition. You know me, I'm a dog owner. I don't have anything against the use of dogs, but I think Michigan could have a spring bear season, and it'd be a really nice outdoor source for people, and with bait only, and you wouldn't have, it would be totally unfettered like the fall season when you have small game hunting and you have the different types of bear hunting and things like that can interfere with if you have a bait set up, and I would like to see it as a bait only hunt in early June.
I would love that, Tom. I would absolutely love that. Being a bear hunter, I would welcome any additional opportunities we have as long as it didn't negatively affect the resource. But let me ask you this. Would the tags under your plan, the tags issued in the spring, would those be in addition to licenses for the fall, or would they come out of the fall allotment?
I have a feeling, that is going to be completely up to the DNR how they want to do that. I would say probably if you get a spring tag, that would be it, and that way they could figure out the allotment or however they do it. That part is something I'm juggling through my head yet. I'm just right now drafting a letter to the NRC to say, what I think is possible. And people should understand that the Natural Resource Commission, it's a very democratic process, thanks to Proposal G in 1996. You can go there and say your piece or whatever. I do miss being there in person. I hate this even thought of virtual. I like to look at people when I talk to them, and, I mean person to person. And so I'm hoping that comes about. But right now I'm just drafting a letter, and I really would like to see a spring black bear hunt. And Michigan, our black bear numbers are growing.
It depends on who you ask, because
absolutely.
One thing it is for sure is we're seeing the geographic distribution of the animals. We're seeing more black bears downstate than we ever have.
Oh, absolutely. I'll never forget the big male that got hit on the outskirts of Flint several years ago. So they do some walkabouts and traveling, but the general territory is starting to spread, which is compliments to the Michigan DNR. They're doing a real good job, and I fully support what they're doing, and reliable people doing it. I'm very impressed with the DNR employees.
Bear hunting is my absolute favorite type of hunting. I mean, I love turkey hunting and I like deer hunting, but I am head over heels out of my mind addicted to bear hunting.
You and me both. I've been at it for 30 years, and I always save my points. I dearly love my Michigan bear hunting, but I go to Canada quite frequently.
Not this year, Tom.
Why is that?
Well, because of COVID, it's got the border shut down. I missed a Quebec bear hunt in May, and I think I'll be very lucky to get back to White River, Ontario in August, and we missed last August hunts too. So I'm jonesing. Although I did get to hunt in Michigan, I had a close encounter with a bear. I didn't get to take it. But think about this: if you want to do Michigan bear hunts, think about going to the UP and taking that third season, because you can get one every couple of years or so.
And I'm thinking about applying for that. I really am. I do love up in the UP. I like hunting with bear guide Gary Morgan.
Sure, Gary's a great guy.
Got a nice setup there, and I like how he goes deep into the public land and sets things up. So I'm looking forward to that. I also was planning on this summer going on a roe deer hunt in Scotland, and I'm not even sure Scotland's going to be open.
Well, listen, when you do that, I would look forward to hearing the details. Always a pleasure to talk with you, my friend. And I think we're enjoying the springtime world waking up, and I'll look forward to talking with you again soon. Maybe we can get out on Saginaw Bay and do some walleye fishing this summer.
That works for me, Mike. It's always a pleasure.
All right. Tom Lounsbury, noted outdoor writer, expert hunter, expert shooter, and all-around good guy, and one of my favorite guests here on the Outdoor Magazine show. We got to take a break. When we come back, a couple of more thoughts that I want to circle back around to. I hate that term, circle back around, but that's what came to mind. And then, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef Dave Miner right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the show on stations across our great state of Michigan, including, 3 of them on the west side of the state and 2 on the east. Those stations on the west side include News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN in Ludington. Just up the road in Manistee, WMLQ 97.7. And let's go down the coast a little bit to Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. Now we can jump over to the east side of the state. The Saginaw Valley, my flagship stations, News Radio 790, WSGW, and WSGW FM 100.5. Now simulcasting, so the show is on both stations at the same time. Charlie Rudin here with me doing a wonderful job. And if you could see the situation Charlie walked into this morning, he got here at 2:30 this morning, and all of the stations in the cluster here were down. So Charlie had to deal with that. They get into the studio. Him and Pat get into the Outdoor Magazine studio a few hours later and realize that whatever had happened had screwed things up here too. So these guys were frantically working on some things, and they pulled it all together. Charlie, I do appreciate it very, very much. A couple of things I wanted to follow up on. The topic of a walleye closure on the rivers, and it's not. Some people say it's a spawning closure. Well, if it was truly a spawning closure, the area would be closed to all fishing, right? And it's not consistent across the state. For example, the Detroit River stays open, the St. Clair River stays open, yet the St. Mary's doesn't. But here's my question. Why do we have a catch and release season for bass, but it's illegal to target walleye during the closed season? Why is that? Are they discriminating against the walleye anglers? I mean, if you get caught fishing for walleye during the closed season, you can get a ticket. You get caught fishing for bass during the closed season, it's no big deal. You throw them back. Why couldn't we do the same thing with walleye? Is it a biological thing? Is there that much of a difference biologically in the makeup of a walleye as compared to a bass? Are they that much more fragile? I mean, I'm not a bass fisherman, but I don't see it. We catch and release walleye all the time. Even midsummer when the water temps are real warm, I catch and release them all the time. They're fine. So I wonder if that is a biological thing or if that's a social thing. In today's world, it is almost impossible to keep social issues out of decisions that should be biological decisions, like a sandhill crane hunt. Biologically, the data is there that we should have a sandhill crane hunt. But it'll be a long, tough road and a long, tough fight because the antis will come out of the rocks that they live underneath and they'll fight it really hard. Same thing with a wolf hunt. You want to get politics and social influence involved in what should be a biological issue, talk about a wolf hunt. But maybe in Michigan, the only way to have a wolf hunt is to get the politicians involved. And do we want to do that? I don't want politicians involved in biological issues. And it's not that I don't like politicians. I have some very good friends who are politicians. I respect them very much. But I don't think they should be making decisions about hunting seasons. A couple of house cleaning things here. I will be at Maple Bay Marine in Brutus in northern Michigan next weekend, next Saturday. I'll be there talking with those guys about Angler Qwest. And then the following Saturday, I'll be at Lakeside Motorsports in Mecosta. Again, that's also for Angler Qwest, Apex Marine. Our Wednesday night lives on my Facebook page, YouTube channel, Vimeo, and Twitter feeds. Every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, we give away a Michigan brand ham for Lent. Also, details on how the folks, Gary Morgan from Wild Game Dynasty, along with one of his guides, Ross Elliott, are giving away 2 guided turkey hunts in northern Michigan for veterans. Details on how you can get involved in that. An upcoming online auction to benefit the Trinity Monitor, my church and school. One of the prizes on that, one of the items for sale, one of the items for bid, is a day of walleye fishing with me for 4 anglers on Saginaw Bay aboard the Angler Qwest. The website for that will be bidnow.us. So just kind of put that in the back of your mind. Make a placeholder there. The auction isn't live yet, but you'll be able to bid on that trip. A Wraith 270 see-through ground blind. By the way, if you want to get one of those very cool see-through ground blinds for turkey season, go to the website outdoorpregame.com. Outdoorpregame.com. Put in the promo code Mike20, and you can get one of those blinds for $200. A tremendous deal. What else? I'm enjoying the weather. I can't wait to get my recurve out. I was going to do it this week, get ready for turkey season. Some things got in the way, but I guarantee you by the time we talk next time, I'll have some arrows going through the air, getting ready for turkey season. They're working on the Angler Qwest I'll be running this summer. I look out the window right now, the sun's shining and it's warm. All is good. All is good in the world right now. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner, and I think he has a great fish recipe for us this time around right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name's Mike Avery. So glad to have you along with us. And also so glad to be able to wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner. You know Dave. Dave was a big part of the Outdoor Magazine television show for many, many years. Also a big part of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. And a pleasure to welcome him back once again. David, how you doing?
Pretty darn good. You know, I don't know if it's a sign of spring or just some dumb robins that showed up at our place. And I did see a dead skunk on M13, and I hear blackbirds.
There you go. What more do you need? Right there. It's complete.
Oh, how about a nice blackened walleye, seeing how people are catching them now?
Yeah, and they better hurry up, though, because the river, just a reminder, the rivers close on March 15th. The Great Lakes will be open. So if you're going to be cooking up walleye, you better be cooking them up out of the Great Lakes. Go ahead, Dave.
Exactly. So anyway, you could do this either on your barbecue or in a blackening pan. So you're going to need, I would recommend using the head portion of larger fish because it's going to be a little thicker and it's going to hold up really nice. Well, about 8 to 10 ounces of boneless, skinless per person, fish, that is. And if you're using big ones, make sure you trim the lateral line out and stuff. You can make your own blackening spice with paprika, say a cup of paprika, a tablespoon each of sage, basil, thyme, oregano, marjoram, white pepper, black pepper, and as much or as little cayenne pepper as you like. Now, what you're going to do, or you can buy Kitchen Magic blackening spices, or some of the grocery stores sell their own brand, which is equally as good. You might have to doctor it up a little bit. If you're going to do this in your kitchen, you want a very hot burner. If you're going to do it on your barbecue, same thing, really hot barbecue. Let's give you the barbecue one first. Rub your fish with either olive oil or melted butter. Sprinkle as much or as little of this spice on it, and then pack it down. Make sure your barbecue is smoking hot. Take that fish and lay it skin side down. Do it for just about 2 or 3 minutes or so, then turn it over gently so you don't knock very much of the spice off. Cover the barbecue up. If you like, you could put smoking chips in there, but a lot of the flavor is going to come from whatever spice drops down onto the hot coals of your barbecue. You don't want to do this for very long. Once you get it going real good, I would say shut the barbecue off, let just the residual heat finish cooking it. You can take a fork and spread apart a little bit of the meat and see if it's done on the inside. If it's nice and flaky, it's done. Don't forget, it's going to continue cooking for 2 or 3 minutes after you get this off of the barbecue, too, also. And if you're going to do it in a pan, you can do it on the barbecue. Get the pan as hot as you possibly can. Again, do the same thing. Put the sauce or the skin side down with a lot of that Cajun spice on it. Flip it over and then turn the barbecue off and let that residual heat continue to cook it. If you like, you could take some of the butter, melt it down, and you could actually dip that fish in the melted butter. Man, it would just be great that way. You could also do this with venison steaks or salmon or ribeyes or pork loin, just about anything.
But you said there's also another. Can you give us the other method real quick, Dave?
Either the barbecue one or the cast iron one. Get the pan hot, real smoking hot. Put the butter on the fish, sprinkle the spice on the fish, and blacken it that way. If you want it less hot, don't get the pan so hot and it will be bronzed. So you only want a golden brown if you're going to do it that way. So you can do it either way, directly on the barbecue or in a pan on the barbecue outside, because this is going to smoke your house up like you can't believe. Don't breathe into the smoke. It'll gag you.
Really? It's that strong?
Oh, yeah. Depending on how hot it is. In the restaurant when we do this, the hood fan, I don't know, it does like 3,000 CFM. It really moves the air, so it doesn't get out into the kitchen. But in your home, you don't have that luxury.
That's for sure. What about next week, Dave? I was thinking about this. Let me bounce it off you. Pretty soon, suckers are going to be running. And I hear about, people, they always smoke suckers, but is there another way to cook up suckers?
Yeah, I've actually pan-seared them.
Well, how about that recipe for next week?
From the dorsal fin back, there's no bones.
Huh.
Just the front. It's kind of like walleye and these other fish that have the rib bones and stuff. So if you take from the dorsal fin back, it's going to be great eating. Yeah, we could do definitely that. I could make like a real nice, a mild sauce. And the sucker is mild flavored, actually. And
it's one of those fish that here in Michigan we have this bias against that most people don't want to eat, and they're actually pretty darn good.
Carp, too. Carp is another one. When I was a kid, my dad used to smoke carp. I've made smoked carp. I've actually pan-fried carp. Heck, it's great.
Well, let's start with the suckers and maybe go to the carp.
They brought the carp in from Europe as a delicacy to eat.
I know. We have these biases. But not you, not Chef Dave Miner, because he can cook up anything. All right, Dave, we'll talk to you next week. Let's do that sucker recipe. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you, because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do the show. And I would be absolutely devastated and heartbroken. Hey, join me during the week on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, a little bit on Twitter. I do Wednesday Night Live every week, and you can always reach me via email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.